So in this chapter, I discussed the profile of a steerer, and as you read through this, you'll get an idea as to why this is important. Physical characteristics. Well, generally speaking, steerers are on the smaller side. They're not going to be your 100-kilo paddlers. Main reason being, of course, is that when they stop paddling and they're steering, then that's dead weight for the rest of the crew. So generally speaking, they're going to be on the lighter side of heavy. So that's just something that's worth considering. Now, in canoe surfing, that could be a little bit different, or canoe sailing, really doesn't matter so much. But critically in racing, it's particularly it is far more relevant. Personality characteristics. Well, some people really just aren't cut out to steer because their personality has, chinks in it. They're not they're not able to cope with criticism, for example. They're not able to rise to that challenge and deal with those helpful comments that sometimes come to you. But I mean, for example, when you are learning, it's very tough in the early learning stages to deal with some of the criticism. But it's, at the end of the day, who else wants to do it? And of course, a lot of steerers end up steering by default, and then they have to grow into the seat. So again, being strong, being calm, being assertive, these are all being likable. These are all qualities that effectively will be working for you rather than against you. The decision maker. Well, typically when you're steering a canoe, you are in charge, and you are the captain by any other name. And of course, you need to make decisions along the way. Now, some of these decisions can be good, some can be bad, but effectively, you need to understand that if you make a bad decision, then you've learnt, and then you will go on to make other decisions that will be better based on those former decisions. This is an essential quality to be aware of. The leader. Well, again, you need to lead. And if you're not someone that can lead, then you're likely to come under criticism, because if you're not leading, then what is the opposite of that? The opposite is you are perhaps wayward, like a candle in the wind. You're not being strong. And I think strength is a really important thing. And of course, with leadership comes strength. There are those that follow and those that lead, but the fact that you're at the back of the canoe, you are leading it to some considerable extent. So, and ultimately it's your canoe, because you're the one that's effectively in charge. So take that on board, and consider that as a concept. Now, you will get guys, girls in the middle of the canoe that are far more experienced here at times who want to lead. That's understandable. However, they need to be able to focus on their end of the deal, which is paddling, and you on the steering, which means that effectively that leadership should really be transposed to you to some extent. Now, as you go through the years of learning how to steer, that role will strengthen and strengthen. The perfectionist. Well, having a sloppy attitude towards your steering and basically towards your endeavors as a canoe paddler in general, won't work for you at all. By perfectionist, I mean such things as, paying attention to the rigging, paying attention to the bailers, paying attention to the condition of the canoe, paying attention to the conditions, paying attention to your limitations and improving upon those, being at race meetings and briefings and being able to be absolutely sure that everything is in situ and ready to go. If you're sloppy, if you're not of that mindset, then that will translate into errors and problems along the way. So being a perfectionist in the nicest possible way is absolutely a strong trait to have. The communicator. Well, yes, you're going to have to communicate a lot of things when you're sitting at the back of the canoe, and because of that, you need to have the ability to do that well. Now, some people just struggle with it, and again, ask yourself, do I communicate appropriately? But you are effectively the oracle of the canoe in many ways. Of course, the feedback will be positive or negative, and so again, that's a skill. Do you positively communicate things, or are you a little bit negative in the way you deliver? The motivator. Well, this is something that's very key, because, you need to be able to communicate in a motivating way at times to keep the crew positive. When things go wrong, be positive. When you're behind, be positive, because there's nothing else. There's no other way to approach these problems. Because if you're doom and gloom and negative, you've got two chances of motivating people. So you need to be an inspiring person. You need to be an upbeat person. You need to be someone that can motivate others into being the best that they can be. It's pretty much that simple. The pacifier. Well, as we all know, canoeing can be quite a political sort of atmosphere at times, but you need to be able to sort of throw buckets of water on the fire that's breaking out if it needs to be in the middle of a race or doing training. And again, take charge of these situations when needed to settle things down. Again, that is a strong trait to have. The rock. Well, this really relates to someone that, no matter what gets thrown at you, you can deal with it positively, whether it's when you're doing crew changes, when you're having paddlers who are becoming ill or incapacitated in the middle of a race, if there's a capsize or your support boat breaks down, all these little multiple number of issues that can happen. Losing your head at that point is not going to do anyone any favors. So you need to be strong. And again, it comes back to this decision-making process, being the good communicator, being the good motivator, and so forth. So, if you're weak, if you crack easily, not a good thing. The control freak. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a control freak in a negative way. You just need to be someone that is okay in taking charge of the situation, okay sitting in that seat and controlling the situation. Because if you're not, then again that comes down to perhaps a lack of your character and your strength of personality. But you need to be someone that's constantly analyzing stuff, and whether it's during training, whether it's during racing, and making judgment calls along the way. And of course, in the knowledge that maybe some people won't like that, but your decisions that you've made. But nevertheless, you need to be there to control the situation as best possible. The technician. Well, it's one of the most technical seats in the canoe, and ideally you've spent time in other seats. If you've spent time 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that will help, or in any one of those seats in some guys. Knowing the complexities of bailing, knowing when to bail, knowing what it's like to sit at seat 1, chasing runners and bumps, or paddling upwind, sitting at seat 5, what that responsibility is like, and all it entails. So, and then of course working your own skill sets as a paddler, and striving to improve the whole time. So yes, this attention to detail in being technical is key. The competitor. Well, naturally, you're going to have to be of a competitive nature, and all the time that you're behind, you need this belief that you can catch up, or when you're ahead, believing you can stay there, looking over your shoulder or looking forward and anticipating certain situations, and being competitive enough to make those judgment calls, which are going to keep your crew competitive, and motivating them to continually keep on task. So yes, being a competitor is all about creating a winning strategy, and all the little facets of that which make up for being a solid competitor. Ocean skills. Well, naturally, when you find yourself out in the ocean, you're going to have a lot of skill sets that you can draw upon, and if you've not had experience in rough waters, you're suddenly confronted with them, that clearly you're going to be challenged. Some people don't have that luxury, but if you don't, you might be able to do that on a solo craft. Maybe your canoes are located in flatter water areas, but you might be able to go and find rough water and go and train it yourself in a solo situation. I don't care whether that's V1, OC1, prone, stand-up paddleboarding, no matter what. But you get that experience, get the experience and knowledge that you need to bring into the canoe under those circumstances. Experience is relative. Well, this is a good one, because there are people who've steered canoes for 20, 30 years, but they may have never actually they probably possibly reached a peak very early on. They've never gone anywhere since. That means they haven't really made a study of the steering necessary. They haven't necessarily got the natural feel for it. They haven't pushed themselves to any limits. And so, you know, you can have people that have steered in a relatively short time, and they're very good at it because they have a natural propensity for it. They have good spatial awareness, good fine motor coordination in handling the paddle, understanding how the mechanics of it work. So don't be fooled by the idea that someone steered 30 years, they must be good. That's not always the case. You can have steerers who have only been steering 3 or 4 years are exceptional. So, you know, it's all relative. Knowing your limitations, well, this is also obviously important because, you know, mainly from the safety of the crew. I mean, if the crew are forcing you to do something that you're not comfortable with as a steerer, then you need to say so or put your hand up and get someone else to take over. Because at the end of the day, you are responsible for their safety. And if you're going out into situations which you don't feel comfortable with, which is fine to some degree because you learn through being uncomfortable, of course, but not if it's going to lead to potentially, you know, sort of a dangerous situation and negative outcomes. So just be aware of those limits that you might have. So 3 early fundamentals worth considering: possess at least a good level of paddling experience and paddling skills, you know, and understanding how the canoe effectively works, understand rigging. These are important attributes that you're going to need coming into that seat. You need to have a genuine desire to want to actually learn how to steer, because if you're ambivalent about it, if you're upset about being put in the seat which you don't particularly value, then you're not going to excel at any time soon. So it's something you really want to do, and it might be the only seat that really works for you. But, you know, take that on board. You know, think about your ultimate commitment to it. And thirdly, you know, if you display some level of natural ability, that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, if you have natural levels of coordination, spatial awareness, sense of direction, sense of touch, you know, these things are going to work for you very quickly and help you out. And some people who have been put in the seat to learn how to steer really struggle, and it's through no fault of your own. It's just something that, you know, you just don't have a natural propensity for it, and that's absolutely fine. So again, you will find that the better steerers are the ones that have a natural calling for that seat.